a crazy amount of Manchester United news is coming out this morning. The Athletic, Laurie Whitwell, David Ornstein, Fabrizio Romano, all the reliable journalists dropping multiple stories. And one of the first stories that dropped actually late last night is reports in Italy saying that Hojlund has pretty much reached an agreement with Napoli over sort of wages and all of that. And Hojlund is set to agree to Napoli move, which means the move can move along, because we know there's no issue between Napoli and United. It's about, can Hojlund agree to the move? And that looks pretty much like it's set. And here we go for Hojlund. Could be soon. Ornstein drops a Mainoo exit bomb. There was obviously reports coming out yesterday that Mainoo was open to leaving Manchester United, and then reports came out saying that he's not going to leave United, and then United relax. Now, Ornstein is confirming that no, he is open to leaving Man United, but will he leave Man United? That's the question, because is there midfielders to replace him? Do Man United actually want him to go? Would the right offer come in for Mainoo? All of that. I mean, you can't rule out Spurs. Now, as I've said many times, I would not sell Mainoo, and I'd be gutted if we did sell Mainoo. But could Baleba be back on? Is it off for good? That's something that we are going to discuss as well, because reports are coming out that maybe United could explore a late move. There's never a player that's never truly for sale if a certain price bracket is hit. And if we did sell a Mainoo, if we did sell a Bruno and got the funds, could United hit the price bracket to make that kind of deal permanent? We're going to talk about Lammens if we get time as well. The latest on that, one of the goalkeepers set to be sold. And Bruno, Ben Jacobs just saying he doesn't really want to go to Saudi. And Antony, United got another Antony offer, but United is holding firm. They want a permanent. They don't want to do a loan, and they're telling Betis, give us a permanent. So, hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to your 10-minute Manchester United news, transfer news, and update roundup. There is so much news diving in. We're in the final week of the transfer window, and news is coming out like crazy, so I'm sure I will be live later today, but let's dive into it. Also, I must say I am recording on hotel Wi-Fi, so I do apologise if there was a dip there or was a bit of lag. It just lagged out. So, Demarcy was saying that Hojlund and Napoli have reached a basic agreement regarding his salary. Progress has also been made in negotiations between the clubs. So, Hojlund has essentially reached a basic agreement on his terms to join Napoli. That was the big thing. If Hojlund agrees to the move is expected to happen. Reports in Italy are saying that Hojlund's reached a basic agreement regarding salary. We obviously had reports coming out last week that he's sort of giving the green light to Napoli. And Hojlund and Napoli looks like it's very close. It looks like it's set to advance. I covered it a lot in my video yesterday. It's going to be a loan with probably about 4 million loan fee with an obligation to buy if certain conditions are met. So if he goes to Napoli and scores 4 goals, they might not have to buy him permanently. But if he goes to Napoli and scores 10 goals, and the obligation to buy is he has to score. If he scores 10 goals, you have to buy him. Then Napoli would have to do an obligation to buy, which could be around the 40 million mark. Sean Irvine said that Napoli are advancing on a full agreement with United to sign Hojlund, initial loan fee about £4 million, and then there's about a 40 million fee. It's the final stages. Then it will be time for medical tests. So we could get a here we go for Hojlund today. So let's get into the Mainoo news, because David Ornstein's dropped a lot of stories. He even spoke about Garnacho, but I'll probably save that for another video. But one of the big things he said is that Kobbie Mainoo is indeed open to leaving Manchester United, although there are not many options ahead of the current transfer market closing. But Mainoo now open. He's been on the bench the first 2 games of the season. He's been told he's got to fight for a place with Bruno Fernandes, which is ridiculous, because we know that Bruno Fernandes isn't going anywhere. He's been told it's between him and Bruno for that spot, which is silly. Now, I'm completely against Mainoo being sold. I think we'd regret it, especially considering Amorim's job isn't safe. Imagine we sell Mainoo, we sack Amorim in November, and we bring in the manager where it's a 4-3-3 and Mainoo's the perfect midfielder. We'd look like absolute idiots, and it's such a big risk. So I wouldn't sell Mainoo myself. I think he's such a good talent. I think we can make it work. I think he's so technically good. And I also think we need him. Like, we had issues in midfield these opening 2 games. Amorim's just not used him yet. We probably needed him in build-up, in control. But look, you can't blame Mainoo. The World Cup year's coming up. The manager isn't utilising him. Agate's coming off the bench over him. The midfield hasn't even been good. It's not like the team's so good that he can't get a sniff. The team is bad and he can't get a sniff. But David Ornstein has dropped that Mainoo's open to leaving. Now, the expectation is that Mainoo probably won't leave, because most people at United don't want to sell Mainoo, but the player is open for a move. And if a big bid comes in, United would look at it. It's a case of United don't want to sell Mainoo, but if a huge offer came in, they'd probably be open to it because the player is open to the move. Hopefully, no huge offer comes in. We are late in the window, but you can't rule out Spurs. So, what did Romano say in regards to the midfield plans? Because Man United want to sign a midfielder, and if Mainoo goes, we'll need to sign 2 midfielders. And I'll be fuming if Mainoo goes, because if we get Baleba, then Mainoo's the perfect partner. Romano was asked about if Man United were going to sign a midfielder, and he said at the moment their focus is on Lammens, but let's see what happens in terms of the midfielder. If there's the right opportunity, United could go for one. David Ornstein, again, via The Athletic, said despite a summer of links to midfielders, there's no guarantee of reinforcements arriving before Monday's deadline as well, was said by David Ornstein. So it's very much a case of they don't know if Man United's going to sign a midfielder. We want one, but there's no guarantees. We're looking at one. There's no guarantees. We'll have a look. We'll see the opportunities. We don't know. Andy Mitten, who is also a credible journalist, was asked about if he thinks Kobbie will leave. And he said, Kobbie, from the people I've spoken to, I would be surprised if he left Manchester United, but I think if they got a big offer for him, United would consider selling him. I think most people inside United would not want to sell Mainoo. I think it's such a big risk, especially considering, okay, it's not working under amorim, but we don't know if amorim's going to be a success. We can't sit here, even if you're the biggest amorim backer in the world, and say amorim is going to be a success. We can't, because we haven't seen good signs yet. You know, I think amorim was fantastic at Sporting. What he did at Sporting was fantastic. And I think with the right signings and a bit of time, amorim could definitely succeed at Manchester United. But to sell a player when there's already quite a bit of lack of confidence in the manager, you know, I think it could be a big regret. I think a lot of people at United would be very reluctant to sell Mainoo. But I think, look, if a huge bid comes in, you never know what United are going to do. Because United still want Carlos Baleba. And is the Carlos Baleba deal actually off? Or is it a case of United could bid late and Brighton might be open to it? Carlos Baleba's head was clearly not in his last game. So let's dive into what I read on Carlos Baleba. So I read this via OneFootball, the People's Person. They said a few things in regards to Baleba. Ineos were unimpressed after United's 1-1 draw with Fulham and want midfield reinforcements. We want midfield reinforcements. Amorim has demanded for midfield reinforcements. Amorim's made it clear he wants a midfielder before the window closes. Baleba is seen as the ideal fit for Amorim's system, and Amorim has pushed for the signing, but we know that Brighton have said he's not for sale, they won't sell. However, as mentioned in the article, there's never a player that's truly not for sale. There's always a price you can hit to potentially do a deal. And United are ready to reignite their pursuit of Brighton midfielder Baleba, and Brighton will sell if the undisclosed valuation is met, as per their analytics-driven model. Departures could also open space for Baleba. I think if Mainoo goes, it really opens space. But the whole reason I want Baleba is because I think he's the perfect partner for Mainoo. So yeah, United are ready to reignite their interest in Brighton midfielder Baleba. Now, what is being said and what is being suggested is there's a certain fee, and Brighton will not tell anyone what that fee is. But if Man United made a bid in the region of that fee, Brighton would sell him. Even if he's not for sale, Brighton would sell him. And I don't know what that fee is. I think it would be over 100 million. And that's the question for Manchester United. Do they want to go a bid over 100 million on a guy that I think, while he is a £100 million player, there's still elements of this game that is raw, of course. But look, I'm a huge Baleba fan. I just want us to break the bank for Baleba. I just want us to get him in, and I want us to keep Mainoo. And I'd love to see a Baleba Mainoo pivot, if I'm going to be totally honest. But look, we'll have to wait and see if United make a late bid. Obviously, reports came out yesterday that we technically could spend 150 million without being in PSR trouble. I don't know if that is the case. I want to talk about the whole goalkeeper situation at Manchester United, because obviously Lammens is set to come in. Dami Sheaf, who works with Sky Sports, said with Lammens coming in, a departure from the keeper department cannot be ruled out, especially if a suitable offer comes in. Now, who could that departure be? Could it be Onana? Could it be Bayendir? Because Onana was dropped really not, from the last game. Even though Bayendir wasn't great versus Arsenal, he didn't bring Onana back in right away for the game versus Fulham. And Onana was on the bench. Onana was fit. Some believe it was performance-based. Is it because he didn't have a pre-season, or is it because he's trying to force Onana out, like he's forcing Hojlund out? I don't know. Is Amorim secretly trying to force Onana out like he's trying to force Hojlund out? Who knows? But Laurie Whitwell was obviously asked about this whole goalkeeping situation on his Talk of the Devils podcast, and he said that United previously said they were not going to spend big on a keeper unless Onana was sold, but Onana set to stay, and United are still going for a new keeper. Now, we're not necessarily spending big on Lammens or giving big wages. I think spending big is a Donnarumma or an Emi Martinez. But United sort of made it clear we're not going to get a new keeper unless someone is sold. We're not going to spend big on a keeper unless someone is sold. But United are now going for Lammens. Onana is now not walking back into the lineup. Could United tactically be forcing Onana out? Amorim, Ratcliffe, and the hierarchy all agreed the goalkeeper position at Manchester United, it needs addressing. And we're now looking at Lammens. We're now looking to get a Lammens deal over the line, which could definitely be a suggestion around Onana's future. Diving into the final stories, Ben Jacobs said that Bruno's reps know of Al Ittihad's interest in him, but there's no official contact yet. And unless Bruno changes his stance, he will not go to Saudi Arabia. So Ben Jacobs dead in kind of that. And there is actually reports coming out from Spain that Betis have made their final, and they put the word final offer for Antony and it's a loan, and United must respond today. And at the end of the day, this is Betis threatening us, saying, this is our final offer, it's a loan. If you don't respond today, it's over. Trying to force United into doing a loan deal. All I'm going to say is Betis need Antony. They need Antony. If Antony stays, okay, it's annoying because of the wages he's on, but it's an extra player. Betis need Antony. So they can threaten us and say, we'll walk away if you won't do a loan. This is our final offer. And we'll just say, okay, you've really upset the player. He's rejected a lot of clubs for you. We're not going to do a loan. Adios. And you know what? The Athletic suggested that's what United will do. So good stuff. Manchester United are expected to hold firm and only consider a permanent sale rather than another loan for Antony amid a recent renewed push by Real Betis. Hold firm, permanent deal. We know you've made 50 million in sales, Betis. We know that Betis, while they don't spend big, they have the money. F off. Oh, also in regards to Hojlund, Fabrizio Romano just came out and said that Napoli are confident to get Rasmus Hojlund deal done soon, as talks are at final stages, by the way, as well. There's also updates that Garnacho is expected to go to Chelsea. Thank you for watching, guys. I will be back later. See you next time. Bye.